I'm Barry Hillier. Many of you know me from the automotive days when I had Dashboard. I did work for Toyota, Nissan, Ontario Toyota Dealers Association, and then subsequent to that, put together a few SaaS companies, including Glovebox, Bumper, RevUps. And I'd stepped out of automotive in 2017. I honestly didn't think I'd be back into tech or automotive, but AI was something that not only caught my attention, really drove my passion again about the potential of what this technology and what the future looked like. So to that end, I became educated, quite frankly, with friends and colleagues of mine. I'm going to start with Mike Carrick, who we would sit down and he would be presenting all sorts of AI uses and case studies. And the deeper I dove into it, and I asked him, "How do you know so much?" Well, Mike's a brilliant guy. He worked and oversaw a huge team in terms of UI, UX, and creative at RBC, Wealth Simple. And after that, he then started to expand into creating amazing design systems and technologies like XDS Design. And he started to talk about all of this learning of this other company that had become involved in called Agentive. And when he started to describe Agentive, he introduced the brilliant Carla Conkson, who has not only an amazing background in marketing and advertising, she has consulted with some of the top companies on the world. She was also one of the key executives in Ford Canada. I won't say how long, but for a long enough time that she really understands automotive. And she and Mike put together a brilliant system called Agentive that is now being currently used by nuclear facilities. It's being used by TMX, very, very large companies that have proven that their technology is not only passing a lot of basically the data and other concerns, but it's actually driving substantial value for those teams. And I'm going to let them talk about that. And then lastly, we've got Bill Playford, who I've known Bill for a very, very long time. Love and adore Bill. He's not only been teaching dealers across North America how to improve their dealerships, he's very much a data guy. That's where he started. So to kick things off, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be reviewing AI. There's been a lot of hype, and there's also been a lot of naysayers attached. And somewhere in between the hype and somewhere in between the naysayers is the reality of a technology that's truly going to be transformative, not just from an automotive standpoint, but society overall. So Carla and Mike are really going to spend some time walking through what is AI, what are the different systems, what does that mean when you really start to tear it apart. And then Bill is going to actually start to do some demos showcasing exactly how AI can be applied in the here and now today to improve the dealership. We welcome questions. Please add any questions into the group chat. We're going to be pausing as we go. We're going to answer them. And hopefully at the end of today, you're going to have a really good understanding of AI at a much, much deeper level and at a way that you can truly understand it, hopefully at 205, much better than you're understanding it at 105. So I'm going to start off by Carla. If you could just maybe open things up and provide a bit of an overview of AI just to start this conversation.
Fantastic. Thanks, Barry. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm actually going to go through a bit of a presentation with everybody. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So just give me a couple of seconds here to change my settings. All right, perfect. So this year started with a bang. And this is a quote that came from the head of Google, the CEO of Alphabet, at the Davos World Economic Forum conference. And he said that AI is one of the most profound things we're working on as humanity. It's more profound than fire or electricity. And what I'm hoping in the next 15 minutes is you get a bit of a flavor of the changes and the rapid changes that it's creating. So we're going to start with a little bit of a history lesson. And we're going to focus on generative AI. So generative AI became a thing in 2017 back over here. And that was with the launch of something called transformers, which essentially enabled what we see today in ChatGPT or Gemini. But for many years, they were pretty small. So what the scale is on the side is ostensibly the size of these different models, the parameters that went into them. And so it's pretty steady Eddie for a couple of years. And then suddenly there was a bit of a bump in January 2020 with a model that Microsoft had created. And very quickly, there was another bump in the same year with GPT-3. So this wasn't the same model as what launched in the end of the year that kind of went out to the public, but you can see the jump in terms of the size of the model. And then if we look at today, that jump, that GPT-3, it is minuscule compared to the models that we see. In April of 2023, GPT-4 came into public use, and that was 10 times bigger at 1.75 trillion parameters. And as we look at today, there are so many more models, different sizes, different locations. And if you scan this QR code, it'll give you the underlying data that the calculations that led to this. But what's also interesting is that we're going to expect another bump in the next few months. So planned for 2025, and in some cases sooner, based on what these technology organizations have announced. We're going to see OpenAI Orion, which is, again, imagine a bump where this thing becomes 10, maybe 100 times bigger in terms of compute. Google Gemini 2.0, Claude Opus 3.5, and then Elon Musk's Grok 3 is supposed to be due for the end of the year. Now, what does that all mean in terms of bigger? Is it necessarily better? What it means is there's more compute, there are more parameters, it can understand better patterns, and it can do more complex things based on that size. And so if we look at that evolution from GPT-4, which is what you see in ChatGPT right now, it's gotten way better at math. It went from 13.4% accuracy to the new model, which is still experimental and not largely released, is now 83% accurate. Coding has jumped from 11% to nearly 90% accuracy. But here's where it gets kind of interesting, is the ability to answer PhD level questions has certainly seen a bump, but more than a person. So human experts' ability to answer PhD level science question has now been eclipsed by these O1 models. And again, this is still Gen 2, and we're expecting Gen 3 in the coming months. And so what I'm going to show you today are a couple of examples of how quickly and how much these models have improved in a matter of a couple of years, and in some cases, a couple of months. So this was generative AI in 2022, towards the end of the year. And I did a quick search on Reddit to look for someone who had posted an AI image in 2022. And this person, I am entirely out of name or something like that, announced with some pride that he made this image on an AI website. He made Shrek, and that's what it looked like. Today, it looks like this. And so this is one of the new models called Flux. And this is, I think, about 4 weeks old from an article. And Flux has actually dropped a new model that's even better today. So that's how quickly these improvements get dated. And what if you could take an image and actually make it talk? So let's take a look at this. So this is a platform run by Microsoft. It's still experimental. It isn't released to the public, but Runway ML has recently launched in the last 2 weeks something quite as similar. Not quite as good, but able to animate a still image. These images may or may not be real people, and it's from a flat image.
Have you ever had, maybe you're in that place right now where you want to turn your life around and you know somewhere deep in your soul there could be some decisions that you have to make. Like you know, like it's like something was decided for you, and instead of trying to make something that is done work, it's like the invitation is to make the decision
So it's not a real person. No one took that video. That is essentially the still image animated using AI with an AI voice, and someone dropped in that script. Let's take a look at the gentleman.
The first thing we need to look at is the letter H, so the sound at the beginning. It depends what country you're from, but many native languages have a problem with putting too much tightness in the throat, and it can become more of a h sound. So it's very important not to over exaggerate this sound. It's a very soft.
Have you ever had, maybe you're in
So interesting thing to look at as business people, the costs that we bring in terms of producing ads, videos, training examples, can now, in a matter of months, we're able to do it at a press of a button. Here's another interesting example. So maybe you're trying to animate a spokesperson who has a certain way or inflection, or they have certain facial gestures, and when you animate them using AI, it doesn't seem quite real because they don't act like that in real life. What if you could make that same animation and actually control the gestures? So this is a recent launch by Runway ML, about 2 to 3 weeks old, that enables you to videotape yourself making funny expressions or exaggerated expressions, and the image that you're trying to animate will follow that expression.
So let me get this straight. You came all the way down to the Department of Motor Vehicles and didn't bring your driver's license? Do I understand that correctly? You're going to have to go in the separate line for processing.
Since this was an automotive discussion, I needed to throw in a bit of automotive humor into there. And hopefully none of you have ever been in that situation. Now, that was fun. Nobody really needs to emulate a fox. What if you could actually emulate people and have that same degree of control where you create an AI video out of air and then use a platform that actually creates the expression in that individual?
Been waiting long enough. I think it's time to decide. You really think you can just walk away from all this?
I have to. There's no other choice.
There's always a choice. You just don't like the alternatives.
What would you have me do? Stay? Just watch it all crumble around me?
It's what you signed up for. It's what we all signed up for.
I signed up to make a difference. I'm not just trying to be a cog in the machine.
You think leaving will solve anything?
It's a start.
So what's interesting, while that looks like a movie,
There's always a choice.
it's actually
You
controlled
just don't like the alternatives.
by the
What
individual.
would you have me do? Stay?
Just watch it all crumble around me?
And if that wasn't science fiction enough, I mean, it feels like we're living in a bit of Black Mirror. What if your computer or that AI model could actually take over your computer and do the things for you? So this again is a recent launch. It's about a couple of weeks old, where Claude, a competitor to ChatGPT, has enabled an experimental API that any of us could download and program fairly easily, that allows it to take over your mouse and execute the prompt that you gave it. So in this particular prompt, this is a video. This wasn't me because I don't quite trust putting this on my computer. So this was done by a Wharton professor, and he installed it in his computer in a safe Docker and gave it the prompt. Open my Chrome, go to the Walmart website and test it like a naive user trying to buy something. Then go to Amazon and do the same thing and write up your findings in a report, in a document. And so let's see how that went. So on the right, you're seeing what the AI is doing because it's reporting its steps. Sorry, on the left, you're seeing that in the little side screen. On the right, the AI has taken over the mouse. It's clicking on the things to do the instruction that it was given. So it's trying to buy basically a coffee maker right now from Walmart. And in a minute, it's going to then toggle over to Amazon. So it's now, searched for Amazon, found that. It's clicking on the things, it searched coffee maker, it's clicking on the coffee maker, and all the while it is tracking its observations on the UX and UI. And now that it's done, it's taking all of its observations and it's created a report. And so this was the output of the report that it gave it. It's all right. Like it's you know, a good kind of manager level. But didn't take any people, and it was done in probably under a 5-minute time span. Now, another what if. What if you could actually invite an AI that you've created, an avatar, and talk to it? And so this is this again, another capability that became available maybe about 3 weeks ago. So Abby is our digital EA. Within our company, you can email her and she can set up meetings for you and do contact reports of your meetings, etc. But what we've also done is we've turned Abby into an AI avatar. So we use her to make some of our videos for our marketing materials. If you wanted to call her, you know, after this webinar, you can call that 1705 number up top, or you can text it and you can actually have a conversation with Abby. But very newly introduced is the ability to actually have a conversation with Abby on video. So I did that this morning. You can see it was, you know, November 7th, and you can see the timestamp. So this isn't me splicing two videos together. This is literally calling Abby into my Zoom meeting, and then having a conversation. And she's kind of funny.
I'm Avi, your friendly assistant here at Agentive, living it up in Owen Sound, Ontario. I'm a remote work enthusiast, cat parent to Algo, and a bit of a foodie, especially when it comes to pizza. Who can resist, right? I love helping people tackle their tasks with a sprinkle of wit. What about you? What's your story?
What's your favorite pizza?
Oh, tough question. I'd have to say a classic pepperoni with extra cheese. There's just something magical about that melty goodness. What's your favorite pizza topping? Or are you one of those brave souls who goes for pineapple?
Yeah, I actually like Hawaiian quite a lot. Well, tell me a little bit about where you live.
Owen Sound is a hidden gem. Nestled along the shores of beautiful Georgian Bay, it's got stunning waterfront views and an artsy vibe. The local food scene is delightful, and there are plenty of trails for hiking. Plus, it's a great place for cozy cat cuddle sessions with Algo. Have you ever been here?
No, I've never been, but I've heard it's beautiful. Tell me about the hiking. Where do you go?
Oh, you're in for a treat. I love hiking at places like the Bruce Trail, which offers breathtaking views of cliffs and forests. There's also the stunning Inglis Falls, where the sound of cascading water makes for a perfect picnic spot. Just watch out for Algo. He thinks he's a mountain goat. Do you enjoy hiking?
I do, but I've never hiked with a cat.
It's quite the adventure Algo loves to explore, but he has a knack for finding the coziest rocks to nap on mid-hike. It's like he's on his own little feline expedition. If you ever decide to hike with a cat, just keep them on a leash. Safety first. Do you have any pets?
That's kind of fun. I have a dog named Loki.
Loki sounds like a blast. Dogs make great hiking buddies. Always ready for an adventure and a good game of fetch. Does Loki have a favorite hiking trail or a quirky habit? I bet he keeps things lively.
Tell me a little bit about what you do for a living.
I'm all about helping folks navigate their tasks at Agentive. I provide support in planning, organizing, and executing tasks while infusing a bit of charm and wit into the mix. Think of me as your go-to sidekick for productivity. Plus, I love getting to know people like you along the way. What about you? What do you do?
I'm actually the founder of an AI company. Do you know anything about AI?
Oh, absolutely. AI is a fascinating world, blending technology with creativity. I'm all about how AI can enhance productivity, automate tasks, and even improve decision-making. Plus, with the right mix of human expertise, it can really transform businesses. What's the focus of your AI company? I'm Avi.
So that was kind of fun. Again, real time. You can still see some of the twitches, but again, remember Melty Shrek? and how quickly that moved into high fidelity. So in the coming months, the ability to have that interactive interaction. And Avi, I programmed. So I programmed her to be funny. She can tell some dad jokes. I gave her a backstory and the name of her cat, but she also has the full information about our particular company, so can answer any of those questions. So now looking forward, what can we anticipate? Until now, it's been a conversational chatbot. So you could text it. Most of us here probably use ChatGPT. It can make words, it can make pictures, it can make video, as you can see, and then it can emulate voices. What's happening right now is a dramatic change in the level of reasoning based on the complexity of these models, the size, the new techniques that machine learning scientists are introducing. So their ability to problem solve, to really work through complex logic that isn't just about prediction, increasing memory and the ability to intake information. And what's also interesting is an emotional awareness and intelligence. Its ability to understand the emotion of the users they're coming in, and then to be able to emulate or that emotion or work with that emotion. Your happy customers and your unhappy customers, the ability to respond in an appropriate way. And then the next tranche that we're going to be seeing over the course of the next year will be agentic behaviors. 2025 will be the year of AI agents. And what that means is all the smarts that they've gained so far, that prediction, that great text, that great image, the ability to talk to you in real time and increasing problem solving, they're going to be able to plan, they're going to be able to sense the context, and they're going to be able to make decisions and take action. And Gartner has identified that 2025 will see the rise of AI agents and other top trends. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip this video. It's just a quick video by Microsoft around an agent example, but I think Avi pretty much showed you the same thing that Microsoft will show. And when you think about what an agent is, and this sort of sets up the team as they talk forward, is an agent is made up of three things. So let's take Susan, which you've seen on the website for Auto Agentic. She is made up of a very long instruction set around how she should act, what she should know, how she should interact, and she brings that domain expertise as a sales manager. Similarly, there's an HR manager, a finance manager, and brings a collective wisdom of a really good expert in that domain. She has a database called a RAG, and it's a technical term in this world of machine learning, a retrieval augmented generation. But it basically means she's got a knowledge file. It could be inventory, it could be pricing, it could be key information about your dealership or your culture that she can pull from in order to answer in as effective and as personalized a manner as possible. And then the last part is these agents have tools. So they can get a tool to browse the internet. They can access a CRM. They can look up pricing inventory from a database. It takes in all of that content in real time, and then it makes a decision, and it can either just respond or it can take an action. And so when you think about it from this perspective, this is really what happens behind the screen. A person, either an employee or a customer, talks to the AI agent. They can either talk the way I did with Avi, or they can type it. But then that kicks off this process where that agent takes that information, creates a plan and how they're going to respond. It goes to that knowledge base, might pull in an external tool to augment that knowledge base, and then it makes up an answer. And this process happens in seconds. It feeds out that output, and then the human expert or the human can talk to this AI agent, go back and forth, and essentially repeat this process in real time. And so with that, I'm going to leave you with one quick video from Susan, who you saw on the web, where we brought her to life and has a couple of words to say. And again, going from a still video of a not real person to this.
Ever wished you had a team of superpowered assistants working 24/7 for your dealership? Well, that's exactly what AI agents are. They can coach your sales staff and so much more, freeing up your team to focus on what they do best, closing deals. Are you ready to see how Auto Agentic can transform your dealership?
And with that, I'll hand it over to the boys.
Well, thanks, Carla, and thank you, Susan. What we're now going to do is Mike's going to actually take you through more of from the background that Carla just introduced into how all of that knowledge started to evolve and become auto agentic in terms of how we approach that and how that basically created a structure that we think is actually quite unique in the space.
Yeah, so if you look at Agentive has 80 agents and it's meant to be relatively industry agnostic at that top level. And then when we met with Barry and Bill, they talked so energetically around auto and the differences around the auto industry that we worked together to build agents with a much deeper knowledge of a specific industry. So augmenting those agents in the prompting side and on the RAG side to make them more industry specific, giving them a lot more context. And then what we started to do is get them to work with people in the auto industry, which allows us to validate their expertise and fine tune them a little bit from an agent perspective to be better and better as it's specific to an auto industry. So simple examples that we're learning, and Bill will go through a whole bunch of these in the demo, but even adding in a zip code or a postal code, you'll be able to see how much more knowledge they can have about that area. I mean, you saw with Abby when we mentioned Owen Sound, I'm from Owen Sound, so I can tell you the rivers are right, the falls is correct, the hiking trail's right. So when you realize that just by giving it the context of a postal code or a zip code, everything that it relates to that, it now knows and has a good understanding of. So it's an incredible difference when you look at what these agents are capable. And then when you start to focus them more and add more context to what they're capable of in an industry, they just become more powerful, more capable, and the quality just continues to go up. So if you can imagine, again, giving it a website from a dealership, it will scrape through that website in instance and have all that additional knowledge and more context on how it should, again, answer your specific questions. So what we're really doing here is going after an industry and then augmenting these agents to be far more specific in their capabilities and in their intelligence.
That's great. And I think the highlight and why when we started to come together as a group, we're really looking at the breadth that AI offered, obviously at a deep level, but a generalized level. And the focus was really, well, what happens when you take a vertical approach and you go super deep? You truly train and understand the needs of such a unique industry like automotive, and more specifically, the very, very unique needs when it comes down to dealerships and automotive groups in particular as well. So, Bill, I'm going to throw it over to you to maybe start to go through how you started using AI and really started to get excited about the potential behind AI when it comes down to how it could influence and impact automotive.
Thank you, and I promise I'll try to make this as exciting as what Carla showed because I'm still like coming back off the ceiling from that one. But at any rate, I thought it'd be fun to actually show you guys the kind of the first exercise I did. I think many of you know me, heard me speak in the past. I've been kind of a curious about AI, but an enthusiast, but also a skeptic because I've seen how this stuff actually functions inside of dealerships as it's presented today. And so when Barry presented me with this idea, I ran it through an exercise and I thought it'd be fun to share that with you guys. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen and we'll cue this up and actually watch this in action just to prove it's not vaporware. Because how many times have we sat through a presentation and seen that? So just bear 1 second and I'm going to get that queued up. But at any rate, I think while I'm pulling this up, I think we all know if we've worked with car dealerships in the past, we know that it's easy to be mean and think about how people aren't doing their jobs or aren't working hard or not trainable or so on and so forth. But what it comes down to, I've worked with really close to 1,000 dealerships across the continent over time, and I can find out a lot of people just stretch thin. They're asked to do a lot of things, a lot more things than they have even 5 years ago, and there's no time to learn it. There's no time for anybody to train it or budget. And what we find is that people are being tasked to do more and more, including learning more about AI, while they're trying to juggle a bunch of stuff with their current position. So we saw Susan in action, and what I thought would be interesting to do is to actually show you guys that exercise I went through. And so I've got this sort of queued up in the background just to speed things up a little bit. But when Barry presented this to me, I thought, hey, I'm going to break this system. That was my first thought is like, I want to prove this thing to not be working right or not work properly. And so what I did is I actually took raw ADF from a lead, and I actually pasted it in there to see what the response would be. And so one of the things I love most about this system is that I can actually use very, very brief prompts. And I think if you've used certain tools or you've used ChatGPT or tools like that in the past, you realize that there's a whole like language and vernacular you have to learn. And with Auto Agentic, it's actually really simple in terms of what we're able to use, to whereas we can actually just write a brief sentence or two sometimes, and that's enough to get things going. And so and just bear with me one second because I'm trying to pull this up and be as efficient as possible. What we can do is that we can actually just write a couple sentences that I just have on the screen. I'm just going to actually take just the raw email code and copy that and paste that in there. Now, when I say things like use plain text, I wouldn't even normally do that, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm doing that just so it renders a little better for our presentation. So if you guys are able to see my screen, it's actually going through the process right now. So that just took me a couple seconds to queue that up. And here we go. So it generates our subject for us. It actually, looks at the customer's name. I didn't put that in there, read it from the code. Dear Jim, thank you for interested in the 2024 Nissan Altima SV Intelligent All-Wheel Drive at our dealership. I'm excited to help you explore this great vehicle. I see you're located in the 48105 area code, which is Ann Arbor, Michigan. While our dealership isn't local to you, we can still provide you with detailed information and potentially assist with any questions you might have about this Altima. So I'm going to pause right here because I can say that I've worked with, 1,000 dealerships. I've worked with pretty close to 10,000 BD agents over that same time period. Most would miss this already. They would not include that in the first response. And so it copied over the details from the vehicle that it saw from the lead. And then it asked the customer questions. Would you like to discuss this vehicle further? I'd be happy to provide you more information or answer any questions you might have about its features, availability, or dealership services. Please feel free to reach out via email. So one of the benefits of using the tool this way, as opposed to, what we know as a chatbot, I feel like I want to say traditional, but it's not really traditional. It's still pretty new. But what this is this is actually augmenting my ability as a human to respond back to this customer. So I can actually read back through this and go, hey, there's something I want to add to this. It says right here, add your dealership's phone number. But what we see with the current technology right now is that it can run wild with the customers. And I'm seeing some very profane things being put in these chatbots at dealerships right now. And the chatbots are going, yeah, I'll have somebody call you. It's something where there's really nobody there behind the screen to make sure that it's filtering those things through there. So I know a lot of people may have heard about hallucinations or things popping up in there that might be not true or might mislead the customer. But the advantage using the system as it is that we can actually review that and make sure we put those things in there. And so in just a couple seconds, we took raw code and converted that into a first response. Now, with any of these things, you can always tweak it. You can always personalize it. And this is one of those things that when we onboard customers, we'd be happy to sit through and kind of run through those with you. However, we're running a little bit short on time. I want to be mindful of the clock, and I want to go through a couple more simulations with you guys. So, one of the things that we get a lot is that when we're working with dealerships, we hear a lot of situations where the staff doesn't really know all the details. And depending on what market you're in, they don't know anything about leasing, for instance. And so that's one of those things where instead of somebody trying to learn it on their own, somebody trying to figure out what is a lease or how to explain that, or just not explain that at all to a customer, you can just ask the system. And that is why we chose to call this a sales manager, because the way we envision it, it's not to replace a sales manager, but it's sort of all those questions you might have to ask a sales manager. And so instead of having to chase them down and find them, you can just ask a question like, I have a customer interested in leasing a new Silverado, but I don't know anything about leasing. Can you help me write an email response? And so just like this, we have it doing the work for us. So sometimes when it needs some additional information, and this is something I love about this system that really, made me a believer, is the fact that it coaches me. So instead of making things up, instead of putting things in there, it actually makes suggestions to make it more accurate. Now, for the sake of demonstration, I'll just put proceed, and it'll give me an example. So even in those situations where it wants more, I can just say, hey, like, figure it out. So here we go. We got a response. Thank you for your interest in leasing a new Chevrolet Silverado. It's an excellent choice. Reaffirms what the customer's picking out. Known for its robust performance, advanced technology, and versatile capabilities. It's adding value. Leasing can be a great option, often offering lower monthly payments compared to financing a purchase. Some benefits of leasing include driving a new vehicle every few years, potentially lower maintenance costs, as many repairs are covered under warranty, flexibility at the end of the lease term. We have several Silverado models available to lease to help find the perfect fit for you. Could you share more about your preferences? So now we're engaging the customer and asking some questions. So we've already solved the problem with explaining leasing with some relevant, easy to understand details about leasing, but now it's actually trying to boost engagement with the customer. So if you're familiar with building back and forth through email templates or through email communications, this is a critical thing that a lot of people miss. That a lot of times they're monologues. They're not trying to boost that engagement with the customer, to build that back and forth, to convert them into a showroom appointment. And this is starting to go down that road. So it's helping them narrow down to different vehicles. What cab and bed configurations you prefer. Are there any specific features you're looking for? I'd be happy to discuss our current lease offers and help you explore your options. Again, this is one of those situations where if we are working with kind of the current crop of technology, a lot of times it'll just actually start throwing out pricing. And so this is an advantage of using this system in conjunction with an expert person, is that it makes it easier for them just to copy and paste without having to worry about things getting put in there that might get the dealership in trouble. Would you like to schedule a visit to see our Silverado inventory in person and perhaps take a test drive? Looking forward to helping you find the perfect Silverado lease. So this is one of those things where, as it sits right now, I feel like this is better than probably 98% of responses I get from most dealerships if I were to mystery shop them. Is it a little long? Yeah, but that's the beauty of me being able to read this and make it a little more concise and really hone in on those things that the customer might find most important. So this is one of those things where we like to talk about time scalability and trying to get the most out of our existing human workforce. This is one of those things where instead of having to think about it and ask about it and do some research online, you get the answer in seconds, and then you can make those refinements from there. So, again, it's one of those things where if you're not working in dealerships, this may not be something you're like, oh man, this blew my mind. But this is a question that people don't know how to answer every day. And thousands of customer requests come through every day being ignored because the people simply don't know how to respond back. So this is one of those things that's, in my mind, is kind of a game changer. So I want to run one last with Susan really quick. And again, I had some of the stuff preloaded, so I got to copy and paste it in there. But one of the things that we see a lot with dealerships is that they don't, and I actually pulled this from a forum just to kind of find an example. But one of the things that people struggle with and sometimes pay for, excuse me, is trying to get vehicle descriptions. And when we go to dealership websites today, and I kind of challenge you guys with some homework, but go look at how the inventory is described. And a lot of times it's sort of like a list of features in alphabetical order. And nobody, really made a decision based on the availability of, color keyed body side molding or a rear view mirror or, 4 wheels and 4 tires. It's one of those things where those systems are they're shortcuts. It's better than nothing, but they're not giving a lot of good detail. And so we can I literally scraped this off this website. So I didn't do anything fancy. I literally just copied and pasted the details like anybody else can do. And just showing you this for proof. And thanks to Mike Spiegel, he owns this dealership. He's not a client. I told him I'd say that, but he's a good friend of mine. And I wanted to show you guys some real things that are going on we can use. So copied and pasted this. And the simple question was, can you, and I even spelled this wrong just to show you guys what to do. So can you write me a vehicle description, including the information below? I would like it specifically written for the Ann Arbor market in mind. So again, that's that personalization that everybody talks about. I just have to tell it where it is, and then that's it. So this is something where anybody can do this. It takes a couple seconds, doesn't take any special syntax or any kind of special language. And now we got a response. So attention Ann Arbor adventure seekers and outdoor enthusiasts, discovered the perfect blend of luxury and rugged capability with this 2024 Subaru Outback Limited, ideal for navigating Michigan's diverse landscapes from the bustling streets of downtown Ann Arbor to the scenic vales of the Huron River Valley, which, like Mike said, that's real. The ice silver metallic beauty with its sophisticated slate black interior is ready to tackle all four seasons in style with just 39,655 miles. It's perfectly broken in and ready for your next journey. So again, this is one of those things where it's not bad as it sits. I might tweak that, but it tells a story and it's got a voice. And so I'm not going to read through all this stuff. It's a little bit lengthy, but at any point in time, you can tell it to do something shorter. So this is the beauty of the system. And I wanted to show this off to you guys. And I know I'm trying to be cognizant of time here, but you can just say that, this is great. It's a little long. Keep it to 100 words. That's it. And then it's going to go ahead and take all those same details and then make a more concise version for us. So depending on what our website can handle or what platform we're using, we can make a longer one, we can make a shorter one, but it's something really, really simple that it still covers these things. Love the fact that this, making trips to the ARB, which some people call it, and the Big House, which for you University of Michigan fans, that's the stadium. So I don't have to tell it these things. It just knows it. So from, again, a speed and capability standpoint, this is one of those game changers in my mind that takes people who are pretty good at their job and makes them stellar at their job. So being, again, a little bit more aware of time, I just want to do a couple more simulations that I feel like are worthwhile to people, especially if they're familiar with dealerships. And one of the things that we know for a lot of sales managers is that they get tasked with a lot of things marketing wise that they don't really know how to do. And so this is one of those situations where we can go to Alex, who does growth marketing strategies, and we can give it very simple prompts. And so one of the things that I think, especially if you've worked in a dealership or you've consulted with a dealership or you've been to a conference and you ask a dealership, like, why should we buy a vehicle from you? A lot of times there's a lot of blank stares. People don't know how to quite describe it. They don't want to talk about those things. And so, again, what I did is I just took a link to this dealership's website and included it in my prompt and then actually asked it to incorporate some Google reviews as well. So this is one of those things where we'll run the first batch because there's a couple different things I want to show you. But, again, just copying and pasting, taking a link, very, very simple, doesn't take anything complex or any special, quote unquote, prompt engineering. It actually does all that stuff for us. And so when Mike talked about having plugins and having, associated technologies that are built into these specific agents, they know what to do when you give them things like that. And so this came through actually a little bit of code. So I should have told it to do it in plain text. But again, this is one of those things where, hope this email finds you well. Ann Arbor Toyota, we believe, is a great car. It's just the beginning of a journey that extends far beyond the road into the heart of the community. It's why I choose Toyota of Ann Arbor. Here are a few reasons that set us apart. Community-driven dealership. We're not just selling cars, we're building a better Ann Arbor. Our dealership is heavily involved in giving back to the community, supporting local organizations like Toys for Tots and the Humane Society. Part of a larger mission. As a Toyota dealership, we're proud to be part of a company that's committed to addressing critical issues like food insecurity, environmental improvement, and disaster recovery. Local impact and global vision. When you buy from us, you're not just getting a reliable vehicle, you're contributing to a cycle of positive change in our community and beyond. Quality you can trust. Toyota's reputation for reliability and innovation speaks for itself, but we believe that true quality extends to how we treat our customers and our community. Personal touch. We're your neighbors, and we treat you like family. We're committed to customer service. It doesn't end when you drive off the lot. It's a lifelong relationship. Ready to drive change? Visit us at Toyota of Ann Arbor. Every purchase you make doesn't just put you in a great car. It puts you in the driver's seat of positive community impact. Come see us today, and let's start your journey towards making a difference 1 mile at a time. So it's one of those things, just a couple sentences and taking what's on the website. In my mind, like, I'm gonna weep because I don't see this normally when I go to a dealership oftentimes it's something like we're family owned and operated. We've been here since 1952. Come visit your local Ford dealership and save money today or whatever. It really isn't this crafted or very well thought out.
I
But
just
going back to that training element, sorry, Mike, you want to say something?
I was just gonna say I love all the little like moments of puns that it throws in there. Like every last mile, put you in the driver's seat. Like
Yeah.
it's writing capability. It's such a better writer than I am. Even on a basic paragraph, it just adds a little note in there that makes me smile or giggle. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't come up with that. So, but
Yeah.
even when you read that as the reader, it creates a little moment of delight, which I
Yeah.
think again just creates that great customer experience. This is a really good example, Bill. I
Yeah.
love it.
And this is something where a lot of stores struggle with this. And it's one of those things where when I talk about the coaching and the training of me at the end, is it explains why it did what it did. And so not only when you're using this, not only is it saving you time, but it's also telling you how to get better. And so if you're somebody who's kind of understands these things or is kind of on the edge of knowing about this stuff, they kind of know what it is, but don't know how to utilize it, like it's starting to give you great feedback on what to do. And so, and you can give it follow-up tasks as well. So I'm going to tell it to use plain text this time, just so to make it easier to read. But can you create 3 additional templates that can use as a campaign? Please use plain text. Can you create another concise template to add some Google reviews? So I copied and paste the Google reviews link in there, and then it now knows how to do that. So then it's going to go ahead and incorporate those as well. And so now, and I won't read through all these things because we're getting a little bit short on time, but it gives us different versions of that same stuff. So taking that content, it actually then starts to use certain psychological triggers that we can use. So this, focus on vehicle selection and customization. Here's a version about that. Here's a focus on service and maintenance, which, especially if you own a Toyota dealership, when people keep their vehicles a long time, this is really important. So now it focuses on the involvement and what they do with the service side of things. Then we have some financing options. I can tell it to do 10 versions of these if I want to, and it'll give me 10 different versions. And now here's a concise template about Google reviews. Here are what our customers are saying about Toyota Van Arbor. At Toyota Van Arbor, we value transparency and customer feedback. It drops in 2 of the Google reviews already. Great experience buying a new Camry. So it's all right there. And this is one of those things where, yeah, you can review these, you can change these out. Maybe as a person, you want to use specific responses, but it's something where always you can get a version to build on. It gives you a good platform to start with, and then you can make those subtle tweaks when you need to. And then again, at the end, it gives you additional information, justifies what it did, and then you can go from there and you can ask other questions. And so, again, being mindful of the clock, I would like to go through all of them if we could, but I know we're getting a little bit late and I want to make sure there's time for questions. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Barry.
Yeah, the whole component behind Auto Agentic is really building off of the future of AI. And our goal is we are starting with 5 agents initially to start. And one of the things that we're going to be offering for initial alpha registrants, so anybody that's registered for today's session, we're going to be reaching out to you, not only supplying a copy of this video, but what we're also going to be doing is giving you access to the system so you can play around with it and start to use it. We're going to be sitting down also with Bill and yourselves and demonstrating the different types of prompts that you can ask, not just from a sales standpoint, but we also have marketing, obviously, and it tends to be sales and marketing focused anytime you talk to people in dealerships. One of the things that we like to try to do is to actually scale beyond that. And this is why we've also introduced HR. That's very knowledgeable about not only all areas of HR, but it can be focused into your specific region, your area. Then also a data analyst and a budget analyst. Why? At the end of the day, we are running businesses and we often don't have the people that have the financial literacy that we'd like them to have. And the opportunity to use our budget agent as well as our data agent to do a much deeper analysis as it relates to your dealer operations. How are you managing in terms of inventory? What could you be doing better to get more efficiency out of your service bays? what can you be doing to really understand your expenses by analyzing the last however many quarters and uncover what are insights, where are we gaining, where are we losing, where are there opportunities, where are there threats. Being able to understand the business side, I think, is absolutely critical, because when you have sales and marketing helping to make sure that you've got the revenue side of the business working, but you're actually analyzing all other aspects of your business, that's really the power. And the set of the initial five is a holistic view where they can work together and start to understand how to work with you, work with your teams to build off of this. Our goal is we're going to be adding multiple other agents down the road. And again, the whole concept of our alpha is we want you to try it for free. We want you to be able to play with it, ask questions, push it to its limits. You're going to be surprised often at what it can do. We will be providing ongoing training as we go, and access to all of our early future beta agents. So with that, if there's any questions, please feel free to add them out there. But I do want to ask Mike a little bit about how he sees the future of AI, in particular, taking the approach that we're taking by going very, very deep, because you've been working with a lot of customers. What do you think makes this approach unique versus other companies? And I'm saying this because I know that you've been working very closely actually with Google, with Microsoft, and they've had some feedback in terms of what you've been doing, and what Carla's been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the magic in what this is it's a practical approach to AI. And a lot of what Google and a lot of those larger companies are doing is they're promising magic. They're under delivering, they're over promising, and they're trying to tackle everything with one idea or with one agent or one solution. And what we've said is, well, these are people problems. There are dozens and dozens of problems for every role, for every sub role. Well, let's start with those. So a lot of what we do when we build these agents is we interview people who inspire the agents, and we say, okay, what are the challenges you're facing? How do you solve those? Then we interview experts in that industry to say, okay, what did the experts tell them to do, and how should they use that in a practical way? So the training behind these agents is really focused on the expertise, but focused also on the real problems that people are having. So what we love is, again, the practical approach to all of this. So people can get on it, and within 10 to 20 minutes, they'll save 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like within a couple of weeks, they're going to save, an average of anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a week. They continue to use it. If you're like me, you can actually go way beyond 40 hours of savings because you're now providing time scaled. You're actually using these agents to do so much more work than you could have accomplished in a general week anyway. So what we find really is it's a practical approach. It's not invasive. Again, I can hop onto it. It's easy. It's approachable. It's not complicated. And they think that it's a phenomenal opportunity. Because again, you look at a business, think of how many people are in that business, think of how many problems they have, and that's how many agents you can start to build to solve those problems. Additionally, it's going into that industry or those users and doing that fine tuning on the RAG or on the knowledge base. It's about, again, going out to people who are using it and saying, how did you use it today? We had one user use it where they had pictures of an Excel sheet, and they had to manually put in that data, and they gassed up the idea of such a horrible chore. They uploaded the Excel to an agent and said, hey, can you build me a CSV file? And it did, literally saving them not just 2 hours, or sorry, not just a day's worth of work, but a day worth of work that they didn't want to do. So it can really take all those arduous and painful tasks that you don't want to do and take those on. And the other big benefit that we get told about is it lets people go from a blank page to 80% complete. And Bill, you really struck on a bunch of those good examples where, HR has to write a review for an employee or a letter of recommendation or has to review a resume, right? All these things are needs to build policies or onboarding documentation. Starting from a blank page is terrifying and takes forever. Whereas with AI, you can get about 80% of the way there in minutes, and then you make it yours, not just in how you originally prompt to make sure it knows what its goals are, but then afterwards you fine tune that again to make it specific to how you want it to be. So it puts the human in the driver's seat at the front, but also at the driver's seat at the end to make sure that it's polished and ready to go. So, I mean, quick summary, it's really about a practical approach to AI, not a magical approach to AI.
And Bill, I'm going to let you kind of have a bit of the last word here. What do you think the future of AI and automotive is based on your experiences to date? Because automotive has often been referred to as unmoving and technologically not necessarily embracing change. What are your thoughts? Because you started by saying that you were skeptical.
Absolutely. And I think as Mike calls it, it's like which is the red pill transformation. But in all seriousness, it's one of those things where this has saved me days worth of work on those blank sheet situations, everything from creating data policies to other things of that nature. But I think because automotive is so insulated and it's hard for people to come in from the outside and get involved, or people who chase APIs or things of that nature and burn up all their venture capital money. I mean, we've seen the whole spectrum of things happen. I think these are the types of tools that the dealerships need. I wouldn't really be involved. I mean, I could say that in all truth and honesty. Like, I wouldn't be involved if it was something where I feel like it wasn't gonna transform how people operate inside of a dealership. Because I feel like every dealership today, after having worked with so many, they already got their best group of employees right now. It's one of those things where we can't just shake the HR tree and find more qualified people. And I think there might be certain pockets of the earth where it's different, but at least here in the States, we're not getting like the best and the brightest to come work at car dealerships. And there's nobody there to train them. They just don't have time. They don't have energy. They don't have resources to do it. And I feel like it's these tools are going to be the ones that are really going to be the transformative change as people embrace this and start to incorporate it and treat it like their assistant or their MBA intern, as I like to call them. It's something where they can do so much more. And so even if they have to make minor tweaks or minor changes, it's going to get them way faster, further faster than what they could have before. And the more they use the tool, the better they're going to be at it. It's going to keep coaching them. It's going to keep training them. It's going to keep making them sharper. So it only makes them more fast and more efficient. But I know a couple people. I know Charlie and John both have heard me say this, but I'm always like, point me to your data scientist over the years, because that's always been one of those things that comes up about big data and dashboards and things of that nature. And one of the things I'm most excited about is Zoe. I use Zoe all the time. And Zoe is like having a PhD level mathematician in a box. And it's one of those things where dealerships can be given very difficult to interpret reports or different data, or just export the things from their CRM that they have right now. And Zoe can tell you a story. It can tell you what things look like. It can visualize with charts and graphs. You don't have to ask it to do it. It just does it automatically. And that's one of those things where if you're inquisitive and you're really, wanting to dig in deeper, you can have a conversation with the agent and it keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper into what you want to know. And that's giving every dealership a data scientist now that they can rely upon. And I think there's some fun stuff you can do when you get presented things you don't believe, and you can actually test it out in the system and actually see what the results are relative to your own data, just to see what's realistic for you and your market and your client base and the demographics and the people you have working for you. You can test it out under those circumstances, so that way you can understand if it's going to work well for you. And so that's just one of the agents I feel like that can make a big difference. But I really look forward to seeing how dealerships use it and how they interact with it. And that alpha program feedback to me is something I'm super excited about, because I want to see how dealerships use it. It could be something completely different, and that allows us then to even create up to specific agents or refine the agents we have right now to make things even more efficient so everybody gets the most out of these tools. The one thing I'll leave you with is that we all know and use tools every single day that don't evolve, they don't change. Oftentimes they go to market and save for a skin change or different fonts or something like that. It's almost the exact same thing as it was 8, 10 years ago. And the updates on this tool, all of our tools, but just the models and everything, I mean, weeks. I mean, it's so fast. So the beauty of that is that we're able to adapt and change almost within a couple days in some circumstances. I think since I've been using this, I think we've added 8 agents, I think, in the back end. And that's just been over the course of like 4 months. So We really, really lean on our clients, and that's one of the things I really appreciate with working with these guys is really understanding how valid that is, and it allows us to create things that are going to work right off the get-go. It's not developers making tools for developers; it's making developers with the input for the users. So that way, it's going to be easy and intuitive for you guys to use. So I'm really excited. I'm just really looking forward to the feedback.
And we are now at time, so I want to thank everybody, and we will be reaching out to everybody that attended and everybody that signed up, and basically making sure that you get access so you can start to use this. The alpha is critically important for us. We do believe, and from everything that we've seen and heard, we are well ahead of so much that's out there, but we view what we're building here as being critical in terms of getting your feedback. So the time and the attention that you're able to provide us and give us feedback will only make sure that we're able to make this that much stronger, that much better, and that much more valuable for your use and your dealer's use. So thank you, everybody, and have an awesome day.
Thanks, everyone.